Well, my name is Martha Forbes. I'm the Executive Director of the Capital Area Family Violence Intervention Center, and this is my third career. I spent 27 years in state government, beginning in child welfare and going to mental health, and then going to the administrative side in Department of Health and Hospitals, and then went to nonprofit work. I became the Executive Director for the National Association of Social Workers in Louisiana, that chapter, for 9 years, and did a lot of lobbying, if you will, and looking at public policy from the state level. And then a friend of mine, I say a friend, suggested to the board of this program, which we call the Battered Women's Program, when they were looking for an executive director, that they should ask me to apply. And so I did, and that was in 2002 in January, and in March they offered me the job, and I accepted this position. And it is the hardest one of my 3 careers, but it is a very rewarding career. Before about 1970, there was nothing for protection or safety for battered women. And since that time, in the country, there are over 2,000 programs. And in Louisiana, right now we're in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge, which is the capital city, and this program is one of 20 programs that are certified or recognized by the state of Louisiana as meeting the quality assurance standards for providing services to battered women and their children. At any time in the country, 2% of all women will be either physically or sexually abused by their intimate partner, or they will be stalked by a former partner. And I didn't make that stat up. It comes from a study funded through the Department of Justice. Working in the field of domestic violence is like working really with creating a new system for America. It is easy for the public to misunderstand abuse. It is so easy to say, well, she should just leave him if he's beating her. But the murders that happen every day, the 3 to 5 murders, it's about 1,200 a year, occur to women 75% of the time who've already made the decision to leave or they have left. I hope we can break the silence. It is still very, very painful for women especially to talk about their experiences, and it is very painful for the community to hear those experiences very often. And we know that one of the factors that keeps domestic violence so prevalent in our communities is because of that silence. Very often there's only 2 people who know what happened, and that's the victim and the perpetrator. And because the perpetrator looks so much like you and me outside of that relationship, I mean, that person may be a very prominent member of the community, may be an elected official or an appointed official or a professional of solid standing in the community, because the perpetrator rarely shows that violence to anyone except his intimate partner. So it helps, it's a cycle. Because of those facts, it makes it more difficult for the victim, or as we say, the survivor. It makes it more difficult for the survivor to say, hey, I'm in a really bad place and I need help. Our lifeline is the telephone. We have a 24-hour hotline, 225-389-3001. And in Louisiana, there is an exchange number that if you call that number, it gets to the closest program, and that's 1-888-411-1333. We have counselors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who talk with survivors to help them assess their own situation, help them figure out where they are in a relationship, and help them develop a safety plan and a plan of action when they are ready. We make no recommendations, if you will. We give information because that person, that survivor, knows what's best in her case. If she's ready to leave that situation, she may want to come to the shelter. She may not want to. If she doesn't, we help her figure out what her alternatives are. Women who are victims shouldn't have to leave their own surroundings. Why make the victim leave? It's a strange idea. So another thing I hope that we can put on the table are other ways that we can configure our programs so that survivors don't have to leave. The perpetrator has to leave. That idea got us into the legal services so that we can look at helping survivors get protective orders that include custody of their children and child support and use of the family property if they happen to be married. So there are all kinds of options for women who come here or who just use the phone. We probably talk with over 1,400 survivors a year on the phone, but only about 350 ever come into shelter. Our definition of domestic violence or intimate partner violence or dating violence is a pattern of coercive behaviors that is utilized by one partner, control the actions and behaviors, sometimes the thoughts and soul of the other partner. And it does not begin with physical or sexual abuse. What we see and what women have seen and shared with us is that the physical abuse is never the first thing that happens. If you go out on a date with someone and the first time they pop you in the nose, the likelihood of a relationship developing is very limited. So what we do see, though, is verbal put-downs and verbal abuse. We see threats. If you don't do this, I'll do that. We see using the children, with children involved, as hostages to the relationship. We see economic controls and abuse and isolation. And so what I encourage the community to look for, just looking at their friends and their family members and their neighbors, is for a pattern that seems to be different from what they have recognized before. The bruises don't always show, but the relationship changes often do show. And to let that person know that you notice a difference. What I expect will happen, what I hope, is that everyone will join the mission to end domestic abuse. And the fact that I know that 1 in 4 women in this country is a survivor keeps me coming back. But our vision here is that it will be a community that will not tolerate domestic abuse. But when it occurs, there will be a safety net for those survivors.